Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. So now inshallah in this lesson, we'll be moving on to the Naqis. But which part of the Naqis? The Maadi. What ta'ali happens in the Naqis? The Maadi of the Naqis. Okay. So first of all, we have the Ammal Maadi. Discussing the Maadi. Now, before we go into the rules, if you understand the table properly, it becomes a bit easy for us to understand. Okay. When you have a ma fatah yaftahu, you have what? Sa'a, sa'aya, sa'aw, sa'at, sa'ata, sa'ayna. Now, the principle to remember is that from here onwards, when there's a zamir, mutaharrik, joined to it, there's no ta'lil. La ya'tallu. Yes? Second rule is, the jama' always has i'tilal. There's always i'tilal in here. And there's i'tilal in here and here, not in Samir Yasma'u or Karuma Yakrumu, even Karuma Yakrumu. So you have Sa'a, Sa'aya, Sa'u, Sa'at, Sa'ata, Sa'ina, Sa'ita, Sa'ituma, Sa'itum, ila akhirih, Rama, Ramaya, Ramaw, Ramat, Ramata, Ramayna, and then Da'a, Da'awa, Da'u. And one point of note is that even though all of the Jama' Mudhakkar Salim have i'tilal, one is Sa'u, Ramaw, Da'u, and Radu. That is different. So we have to analyze this. So the changes will happen here will be the same as happens on all of these, but here slightly different. So that's why we need to look at them. So these don't have any changes. So if we look at it here without the text, what will happen? What can we see straight away? Why is there no change in any of these? Because the ya is a mutaharrik in here. Is the wa mutaharrik in here? Is the ya and wa mutaharrik in here? Can you answer the question? Is the waw and ya mutaharrik in here? So because it's not mutaharrik, you don't have ma qablahu maftuh. So the changing into an alif only occurs. It only occurs when we have a mutaharrik. Waw or ya is mutaharrik. So these are sakin. So there's no change in there. And the rest of them, where there is a change, we'll see why there's a change in there. We go through that. And in here, sa'a, rama, da'a. So it's really what? Sa'aya. So then, sa'aya, mutaharrik ma qablu maftu, sa'a. Ramaya, the ya is mutaharrik ma qablu maftu, rama. Da'awa, mutaharrik ma qablu maftu, da'awa. Radhi is mutaharrik, but ma qablu is what? Is it maftuh? It's not maftuh. Because it's not maftuh, it wouldn't change. Understood? Ahmed, you following? Yes? Okay. So what's the text here? فَتُحْذَفُ اللَّامُ مِنْهُ أي مِنَ الْمَاضِي. The lamul kalima will be removed from the likes of فَعَلُوا مُطْلَقًا وَفِي مِثَالِ فَعَلَتْ وَفَعَلَتَا إِذَنْ فَتَحَ الْأَيْنُ. Okay, what do we have here? He's discussing what's he discussing here? فَعَلُوا, فَعَلَتْ, and فَعَلَتَا. Okay. Right. So what happens now? He's discussing fa'alu in here. So let's look at sa'at and sa'ata. Let's look at this one first. What was sa'ata originally? If you take out the ya, what's it supposed to be? Sa'a, sa'aya, sa'ayat. No? Correct? Sa'ayat. Yes? Are you following? Make sense? Sa'ayat, nasarat. What's happened? What's a ya? Is it mutaharrik? What's before it? A fatha. What will happen to the ya? Change to an alif. So sa'at. What do we have? Iltiqa'u sakinain. Alif and ta. Because of iltiqa'u sakinain, you drop the alif, it becomes what? Sa'at. The same will happen is sa'at, sa'ata. To release nasarat, nasarata. To sa'ayata. And the same rule will apply. Sa'ata, sa'ata. So sa'ayata. So when they say here, it becomes what? Sa'ata. So in here it's not iltiqa'u sakinain, but because they dropped it in the top one, they will also drop it in here. And it becomes sa'ata. So it's not iltiqa sakin, it's sa'ata, it's not iltiqa sakinain. But because it was dropped in a singular, sa'at, it will also drop in here. So you understand what happens? Why the lam kalima drops in here? Yes? So in fa'alat and fa'alata, have you understood why it drops? Good. And why does it not drop in radiyat and radiyata? Because the word before is maqsoor, not maftuh. Say not maftuh, so that it works everywhere. The rule is not maftuh. It is maqsoor, but say not maftuh, because the rule is a fatha. Because in radiyah is mutaharrik, but ma qablu is not maftuh. Because of that, there will be no change. Are you following? Now we can look at the sa'aw, ramaw, and da'aw, and radu. And in all of them, whether it's even maqsoorul ayn, it will drop. Even in radiyu. We'll explain radiyu later on. Why is it happening sa'aw? Same reason. Sa'awu. Sa'awu. Wa mutaharrik. Ma qabluhu wa maftuh. Becomes alif, sa'aw. Ijtima'u sakinain. You drop it, becomes what? Sa'aw. You got it? Anybody understand that one? So what's the text? فَتُحْذَفُ اللَّامُ مِنَ الْمَاضِي of the naqis. The lamul kalima will be dropped in the likes of fa'alu mutlaqan, i.e. in all abwab. Mutlaqan means in all abwab, without any restrictions, in all conditions. In all abwab or in all conditions. Yes? Yes? وَفِي مِثَالِ فَعَلَتْ and فَعَلَتَا. It will drop in fa'alat and fa'alata as long as it's not what? As long as maftuhul ayn. That happens in sa'a, which is what? Sa'a yas'a fataha yaftahu, rama yarmi daraba yadribu, and nasara yansuru. In those three abwab, the ayn kalima is maftuhul ayn. So in those three abwab, the lam kalima will also drop in what? In the mu'annas and the ghaib and ghaiba. Ghaiba and ghaibatan. If it's maksurul ayn, وَتَثْبُتُ فِي غَيْرِهَا. If it's maksurul ayn, like this, or in all of these. What happens in all of these? In all of these, what happens? The harful illa, the waw or the ya remain in place. The lam kalima remains in place. وَتَثْبُتُ فِي غَيْرِهَا أي في غير مفتوح العين وفي غير فعلوا في غير فعلت and فعلوا. Have you understood the Mazi table? Yes, everybody understand Muhammad, Musab? Everybody understanding the Mazi table? Yeah, that's coming up shortly. Why is it come Radu? That's coming up shortly. So he's going through a table, but we use the word da'u instead of da'a. So this is the same as da'a, but we have da'a in our table. So ghaza, ghazawa, ghazaw, ghazat, ghazata, ghazawna, ghazawta, ghazawtuma, ghazawtum, ghazawti, ghazawtuma, ghazawtunna, ghazawtu, ghazawna. And we learned these tables last year, and we should know them. Rama, Rama, Ramaya, Ramaw, Ramat, Ramata, Ramayna, Ramaita, Ramaituma, Ramaitum, Ramaiti, Ramaituma, Ramaitunna, Ramaitu, Ramayna, and then Radiya, 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 Radu, Radiyat, Radiyat, Radina, ila akhirih. And this is Bab Karuma, which we don't have in our Sarf tables book. But Saruwa, Saruwa, Saru. There's only one change in there. Like Radiya, 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 Radu. And then the rest is the same. Saruwat, Saruwata, Saruna, Saruta, Sarutuma, Sarutum, ila akhirih. You got it? So those are tables he conjugated. We had tables on the side in table form. Now, what you were asking. That we have Sa'aw, we have Ramaw and Da'aw. And we have Radu and Saru. What's the difference between them? One has a fatha and one has a dhamma. Meaning, the lam kalima is dropped, isn't it? Which is the lam kalima is dropped in all of these. But when it's maftuhul ayn, the ayn kalima has a fatha. And when it's what? Not maftuhul ayn, the ayn kalima has a dhamma. It gets a dhamma. Why is this? He explains this. وَإِنَّمَا فَتَحْتَ مَا قَبْلَ وَاوِ الضَّمِيرِ في غزو ورموا وضممت ما قبلها في رضو وسروا. This is the question. The only reason, the only reason, you say the only reason, or you only give the only reason better. The only reason, or the reason, you can say the reason as well, just reason on its own. The reason that you give a fatha to the letter before the waw al-dhamir. So look, the fatha. So before the waw al-dhamir, you give the fatha in sa'a, ramaw and da'aw. And you give a dhamma. And the reason you give a dhamma here is because, and he explains it. Yes? You understand what he's explaining now? What your question was? The reason is لأن واو الضمير إذا اتصلت بالفعل الناقص بعد حذف اللام. Because the rule is the واو الضمير when it becomes attached to a فعل الناقص after removing the lam. So when we remove the lam, because we're dropping the waw or the ya, the harf al-illa. Yes? So the rule is when you drop the harf al-illa, if ma qablaha is fatha, you keep the fatha. And if ma qablaha is not fatha, you drop the fatha. So what's happening here? What do we say? Da'awu. Yes? Correct? It's da'awu, isn't it? This is not drawn up properly. So what happens? Let's start from the beginning. Okay, let's take the word da'a. So da'awu. Nasaru, isn't it? Everybody with me? And then what happens? Wa mutaharrik ma qablahu maftuh becomes an alif. You do qalb. And then what happens? Iltiqa sakinain. So what do you do then after that? Hazaf. Qalb and hazaf. Yes? And that becomes what? Da. Now, what do we say here? Because the ayn kalima, yes, in fataha ma qabla, if the word before the waw has a what? Fatha. What do? You keep the fatha. So you keep the fatha here, da'aw. So if the ayn kalima was a fatha, after dropping the lam kalima, you keep the fatha. Yes? And وَإِنِ انضَمَّ أَوْ كُسِرَ ضُمَّ. And if what? There's a dhamma or a kasra, what do? You give it a dhamma. So for example, let's say for example, what do we have? Radhiya. So so let's take, what's originally radhiya? Radhiyu. Correct? Radhiyu. Yes? What's going to happen? Okay, yeah, we change alif, but that's going to explain next time. What will happen here? We say we give it a kasra. So saruwu, you leave it as a dhamma. So naqlun. So what happens here? You have a naql. It's explained here. So saruwu, you do naql. You see the waw here? Saruwu. What do you do? Naql. What do you mean? What does that mean, naql? You move the waw, the sakin over onto here. But it's already, so you do naql, but you didn't make a difference here. And it becomes what? Saruwu becomes then you do hazaf. Saru is imam sakin, you do hazaf. So saru. So saruwu, there's no qal because it's not mutaharrik ma qablahu maftuh. So all you do is move you move this haraka over here. This becomes sukoon, and you get saru, ishima sakinain, you drop that. Becomes saru. Same in radhiyu, same in radhiyu. Radhiyu, what do? First you do what? Naqal. So when you do naqal, what happens now? Radiyu, the dhamma from the ya goes onto the dad. Then you do have ijtima' sakinain, you drop the ya. Are you following me? So what happens again? When you remove the lam kalima, which was originally what? A waw or the ya. Then if the ayn kalima is a fatha, then you leave the fatha as it is. And if it's a dhamma or a kasra, it becomes a dhamma. Why? Because you do naqal and you do hazaf because of ijtima' sakinain. In the previous one you do qalb and hazaf. Here you do naqal and hazaf. So you do qalb of the lam kalima onto the ayn kalima. So the dhamma from here goes over onto here, and then you have ijtima' sakinain, so you do hazaf. So it becomes radu. And in da'awa, you change the waw into alif, qalb, then you do ijtima', sakin, you do hadaf. You have qalb and hadaf in other ones, and here you have naqal and hadaf. Are you following? Yes? Okay. like he's saying here, aslu radu radiyu. Aslu radu is what? Radiyu. What do you do? Naqal. Nuqilat dhammatul ya. This ya. Nuqilat dhammatul ya ila dhad. You move the haraka of the ya onto the dhad. Wa huzifatil ya'u liltiqa'i sakinain. Then you drop it because of what? You drop what? You drop the ya because iltiqa' sakinain. Then what does it become? Radu. Are you following? Anybody understand? So if you go back here to our table, let's go to our table here. Okay? So, if you look at it here, yes, in sa'a, rama, and da'a, what happens in all of these? What rule applies? What two rules apply in all of these? Then, this qalb, my mistake. This qalb. You change the waw and ya into alif. Yes? In here, what happens? And correct? Make sense? Because, yes? And in radu, what happens? In radu and saru, naqal and hadaf. You move the haraka over and then you do hadaf. So in all of them, so you have qalb and hadaf, and naqal and hadaf. Does that summarize it? Yes? Okay, let's stop here today, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.